It's 1994. The United Nations proclaim the year of the family.
Wir sitzen jetzt gemütlich am Kaffeetisch und essen Kuchen. Mutters Klavier kommt aus Amerika zu ihrer harmonischen kleinen Familie in Deutschland. Ist das zu viel verlangt? Bitte, meine Herren.
So beautiful. Every year. Nelson Mandela becomes the first black president of South Africa.
Free at last.
A man called Jeff Bezos opens a little bookshop.
Hi there, who are you?
I'm Jeff Bezos.
And what is your claim to fame?
I'm the founder of Amazon.com.
Hear that laughter? We could have known he's trying to take over the world. Edvard Munch's Scream is stolen from the National Museum in Oslo by two men with a long letter and good manners. They left a note reading, "Thanks for the poor security." And Garry Kasparov becomes chess world champion by doing this.
Kramnik defending bravely, but now the pawn's gone. No, Kasparov can win it. He has little time, but it's an easy win. Kasparov wins. Brilliant.
Wow, that's amazing. Play it again, half speed.
He has little time, but it's an easy win.
Incredible.
Kasparov wins.
What am I doing here? But what happened to the automotive industry, and which cars of that year were checkmating all the others to become future classics? Let's go right back and find out. Welcome to Car Crush. After more than 4 years of recession, the global automotive industry is now going through a phase of consolidation. Most industrial countries begin to see some degree of economic recovery, with the exception of Japan and Eastern Europe. Companies are continuing to develop more global strategies for their operations, and we start to see more joint ventures and mergers, like for instance the shared platform for the vans Volkswagen Charan and Ford Galaxy. China increasingly becomes the hotspot for the automotive industry, since the government declared development of the transport infrastructure to be one of its main priorities. Vehicle demand for the nearly 1.2 billion people is a huge bait, and the foreign vehicle manufacturers are already licking their lips. The car concept which is en vogue in 1994 is, believe it or not, the minivan. A concept which is massively losing popularity today, despite its cleverness and versatility. In Geneva, we're seeing all kinds of concepts and production cars in that segment. Like the Renault Ludo as a spiritual successor of Citroën 2 Chevaux or Renault R4, and the Peugeot Ion as a compact urban van with ultimate space efficiency and electric drivetrain. Another exciting show car fits a Formula One engine in a production vehicle. And even for that crazy idea, they've taken a minivan, the Renault Espace F1, powered by the firm's Grand Prix winning 3.5-litre V10. Mercedes awakes our enthusiasm in Turin with a stunning concept car anticipating the 1996 SLK. Its hydraulic retractable hardtop fascinates the crowds and confirms the decision to bring this compact roadster to the streets. And the car of the year? The Ford Mondeo. Another great choice in a world of fascinating cars in the middle of the 90s.
Our system is rigged. You know it, they know it, I know it, and pretty much the whole world knows it.
But now, let's have a closer look at some of the most exciting introductions of the year to track down the future classics. I said we're not considering cars here that nobody can afford. But as a short appetizer, let's give us 10 seconds to celebrate the timeless glory of this Ferrari F355, presented at Geneva this year. Thank you. And now, something for everybody. The Lancia Kappa Coupé. Lancia, if you haven't heard of it, was a proud Italian brand founded in 1906, which some decades ago made great cars like the Aurelia, the Fulvia or the Flavia. Today, they're part of Fiat Chrysler and offer exactly one model, the Fiat 500-based Lancia Y. In some markets, you can also buy it as a Chrysler Y if you like, since brands and heritage really don't matter at all. It's that kind of thinking that led to the death of many great brands and companies, and Lancia definitely is on the list of endangered species. Today, they're selling some 50,000 vehicles, which is basically nothing. But the decline of the company began much earlier, which brings me back to this Kappa Coupé. To me, it's somewhat lovable, but in a way that you feel almost pity for it. You might know this feeling from certain dogs. This car has so many design flaws and in some areas remarkably lacks attention to detail. Just one example. Look at these highlights between front fender and side door. It's just wrong. And when you've seen it once, you'll never be able to ignore it again. You see? That's not how to become a future classic. And next, the Maserati Quattroporte. And we can speed this one up a bit, because it's basically the same story as with the Lancia. Fantastic brand, great heritage, more than 100 years of history, an outstanding lineup of classic cars. But then comes this 4th generation Quattroporte. The first model after the company was taken over by Fiat. And they've put a twin-turbo V6 in there, the leather of a small herd of cows, and a proud Maserati Trident in the grille. But somehow they forgot to put some love into it. And that's not a good idea for a luxury sedan from Italy. And that's not a future classic. And here's another big sporty sedan, this time from Great Britain. Let's see how that turns out. The Jaguar XJ. This generation is called the X300, and it's part of a long line of great British luxury cars. It was built for only 4 years in a period when Jaguar was under Ford ownership. Not the best omen usually, but in this case it very much helped the suffering company to get back in the black. Following the right instinct, the styling of the XJ marked a return to the curved lines, sculpted bonnet and round headlights of earlier XJ models. The exterior features great proportions and a dynamic, low silhouette. It's tasteful and still works brilliantly today. Plus, this car was much more robust and reliable than its predecessors that have an awful reputation. So, not many reasons not to like it. And it's still amazingly cheap. You can get one in acceptable condition for around 10,000 euros. This won't get any better. This Jaguar XJ is a future classic. And here's another Briton, the Range Rover. When the P38A, as it's called, made its debut in September 1994, it was an instant hit. It followed the Range Rover Classic, which has become quite a legend, but was much more refined than the old one, and at the same time was still one of the best off-roaders in the world. The styling might not be as charming as the original Range Rover, but no doubt it's classy, timeless and premium. Unfortunately, that's not so much true for the car's mechanical quality. Quite the opposite. This range, as cheap as it may be to buy, has the reputation to eat your money. Electronics, air suspension, coolant issues, rust, the list goes on. Reliability is not a word for this range. This is why these models are extremely attainable. If you want to. I would not want it. I would be afraid. This P38A is a cool car, but sadly too bad to be a future classic. Let's have a look at BMW, the 7 Series E38. To me, this is by far the best looking 7 Series ever made, and also one of the best BMWs of all times. It's elegant, it's dynamic, it's sleek, it's a proper BMW, being the driver's car of all luxury sedans. And it was the perfect antipode to Mercedes' massive S-Class, the W140. These were 2 German luxury cars covering the whole range of characters. And in my opinion, this is one of BMW's great failures, that they didn't maintain that undisputed position of the sporty luxury sedan. Instead, they were more and more trying to follow the S-Class by adopting a more luxurious and less sporty character, which to many didn't represent the core values of BMW anymore. And neither succeeded in catching up with the S-Class. This was particularly obvious when the successor E65 came out. You all know the stories about this car, and it just shouldn't have happened. I very much appreciate when companies are brave and build cars with character that stand out from the crowd. But it should happen with taste and Fingerspitzengefühl. That was not the case with the E65, but it made the E38 even better. It has style and presence and still turns heads despite being more than 25 years old. It's such a great and timeless design. This BMW is close to perfection and one of the most beautiful sedans ever made. This is how a BMW luxury sedan should look like. And this is a future classic. And now, an Audi. Heading north, just 50 miles from the BMW headquarters, Audi gives the finishing touches to its first generation A4, called the B5, internally known as the 8D, and based on the Volkswagen platform PL45. These numbers are actually the most interesting stuff I can tell you about this car. The A4 is a very boring, unemotional sedan, and this actual picture from the Audi History website shows you how even they are desperately trying to make this car a bit more funky by applying all kind of clip art witchcraft. It didn't help. This old Audi will just vanish into oblivion and never become a future classic, with two exceptions: the much more appealing Avant models and of course the S4. Which brings me to the very cool daddy of them, the Audi RS2 Avant. It had its debut in 1994, but was still based on the A4 predecessor. The RS2 was the limited edition pinnacle of the Audi A4 and was developed in a joint venture with Porsche as a high-performance estate car. And the result was mind-blowing. It was the first car to carry the RS moniker and the founder of a long line of fantastic performance Avant models from Audi. Just under 3,000 were made between March 1994 and July 1995. So it's a very rare car and highly collectible. For me, this is one of the very few Audis that are truly desirable and immediately make you want one. I think it's the perfect package. A compact estate with decent space, great looks, the atmosphere of the early 90s, a reasonably sized engine and plenty of Porsche technology. This is by far my number one Audi of all times. It's a beautiful and outstanding future classic. Please call me if you own one. And that was about it for the year 1994. Next week it's about James Bond, cars without roofs and one very old lady. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it.